Alright, so, Model Monday. I got a new project for us today as beginner advanced class. Like I was saying, I found this little corner of the internet, of YouTube, that has like animatronics on it, which is so fun. So, and I found this little piece of software that after you design your animatronic thing, this is a little eyeball. After you design your animatronic thing, you can import it, and then you can make the animation. So you can make it blink and stuff. So fun. And then you can export this right to an Arduino, and it's like doing all the part that is tedious and time consuming to like make all your animations right here and export them. It's awesome.
So this thing will export code for the Arduino?
Yes. Or you can run your Arduino live. So if you have your hardware, you plug it in, and you can run it live through the computer, so you can actually see it moving physically. It's so cool. I'll show you a video after class. So today, I thought it would be fun to make a little eyeball. And then maybe we'll throw some joints on it here in Fusion. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new document here. The animation software is also free, which is the right price. So,
It's my favorite.
yeah, if it's free, it's for me. I'll take 3. All right, so we're going to start a new sketch. So from our Create menu here, I'm going to go ahead and find the new sketch option, or Create sketch option. I'm going to close this just because it's in the way. I'm going to draw on, I'm going to be kind of deliberate about the sides that I'm drawing on, so I keep things straight in my head here. So I'm going to draw on the right side. So if I want to, I can come over here to my navigation cube, and I can spin my navigation cube so I'm looking at the right side. And I'm just going to go ahead and click on that right side there. So the axis between my green and my red axis there. And then front is looking towards the left there, the front side of the cube, the navigation cube. So we're going to make our eyeball face that direction. Let's start by drawing a center diameter circle. So we're going to create a center diameter circle here. I'm going to create the center point of my circle right in the middle of my drawing world, right at the origin. You know, I like to have some part of my sketch connected to my origin to kind of constrain things in space as well as in dimension. And I'm going to make it 2 inches. 2 inches is like a ping pong ball size-ish, right? So seems like about a good size for an eyeball there, but you can make it bigger or smaller if you choose to do so. I support your choices. All right. I'm also going to draw on here a recess for the iris. So from my Create menu, I'm going to grab the ellipse tool, and I'm going to create an ellipse kind of like off to the side here. I just want to make like, maybe let's go 1 1.25 inches tall and 0.5 inches deep. Yeah, that's probably good. So I made it 1 1/4 tall and 1/2 inch wide. And I'd like to place this ellipse so it is kind of right on the end point here. So I'm going to use a couple of constraints to kind of lock it into place. So first, I'm going to kind of click off into no man's land over here. And before I add my rules about what I want this ellipse to do, I'm going to make sure I don't have anything selected. So from my constraints menu, I'm going to choose the coincident constraint first, because I want this center point of this ellipse to be coincident on our circle. And I also want to kind of lock it in position like up and down, right? So I'm going to grab one more, I might have to grab two more constraints, but one for sure. I'm going to use this horizontal vertical constraint. And I'm going to say, hey, the center point of this arc, or of this ellipse, should be directly horizontal from the center point of that circle there.
We're having trouble with our ellipses.
Oh, all right. Yeah, the ellipse tool is kind of funny. So when I grab my ellipse tool here, you click to place the center point, and then you move your mouse out, and you can type in the number here. Now you don't click enter. A lot of tools you click enter to kind of like place that dimension. On an ellipse, you just click to place the dimension, and then you can move your mouse right and left to enter your second dimension.
Well, you got a circle. You got to fix your circle.
You're going to come around and take a peek. There you go, you got the ellipse. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So you can always change the dimensions after the fact, as long as you like click and place them, right? So now you got an ellipse for sure, so you can kind of click and place that dimension if you want to. And then if you hit the escape key. Yeah, copy that pin over there. Now you can like double click on those measurements, and you can change them to be whatever you want it to be.
So that's the one you want, 0.5.
Yeah.
Press tab and then go to the other. Oh, no, you gotta press enter.
Nice. Very nice.
I'll go to that one. You got 50 degrees.
I put 1.25 on. I mean 1.5 on
That looks like vaguely like an iris, right? Like the recess for an iris.
I don't know what you did.
that.
I think you should just make it one. Okay.
They just
And then the last thing we need to do on this sketch is just to draw a line connecting our two center points. Actually, we need to draw a line straight across. Straight across the whole circle that goes right across the middle here. So if I just start at one side and I finish over here, as long as I've got a 0-degree line here, then I know I'm straight across. And there it is. That is our sketch of an eyeball. An eyeball looking thing. The ellipse is kind of extra, so you can always skip it if you don't want it. I want to try printing it out with the recess because I'm thinking if I like paint in here and then add a little bit of resin, and then paint on top of the resin, and then add a little bit more resin and kind of slowly build it up. The eye will look like it's got depth and dimension.
Okay.
What about this one? That clip in blue?
It's just, yeah, go ahead.
Remember, you just need a line that divides it in half.
Line. Dividing our circle.
Dividing your circle in half, yeah. So as long as that line goes through that center point, then you're good to go.
Just like that. Over here. We need that line cut in half.
Yeah, this line right here.
Yeah. Start at that. One side.
And then we can say finish sketch. Once we've got that line there. Alright, so I'm gonna name this sketch. This sketch is called my eyeball. Eyeball. And because we can, let's go ahead and do the fun part right now. Why postpone gratification when we can make a shape right now? None of this boring two-dimensional stuff. We're adding a third D. Alright, so I'm going to use the revolve tool here. So from the create menu, I chose revolve here. And then the object or the profile that I want to revolve is either my top or my bottom half. Doesn't really matter which one. Either one of these things will do the job just fine. And then the axis that I'm going to revolve around is that center line.
Is that in the create menu or modify?
That is in create, revolve.
So you're not doing that little part that's in the whole ellipse there?
Yeah, I'm not revolving that part.
Okay.
And we're going all the way around. Full revolve. Alright, and then I'm going to say oakley dokley. And now I can turn off the visibility on my eyeball sketch if I want to, and there's my eye. And I'm going to go ahead and name that body. So I've got a body over here I can name, right? So to name that body, I click on it, kind of pause, I click again. It's my eyeball. Eyeball. Alright, cool. So, let's make ourselves a pair of lids. So from our create menu, I'm going to come down and choose to create a sketch again. Make a second sketch here. And this time I'm going to draw on the top. So before we drew kind of like on the side of our eyeball, now I want to draw from the top down. So I'm going to draw, I guess it's the axis between my green and my red axis again. I thought that was the same last time, but yeah, so I'm going to draw on the top. So I'm going to look down at this thing and choose my top there. And I'm going to draw another circle. So this is another one of those benefits of having part of your sketch located around your origin, is no matter what sketch you start drawing on or what plane you start drawing on, the origin is the same. So from our create menu here, I'm going to grab my circle tool, We'll use the center diameter circle. I'm going to start the center of my circle at the origin of my world here. And our eyeball is 2 inches. Oh. So I'm going to make this like 1/8 of an inch bigger. Just a little bit, give it some clearance on the outside. That might be more than necessary, but it's going to be fine for now. You don't want to scratch your eyeball on your eyelid. It's bad when that happens. You're going to have a bad time. When you get that little metal chunk stuck in there, yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I thought I had something in my eye still, but it was cut on my eye.
All right. So, have you ever gotten an MRI scan? Because they ask you if you do a lot of like grinding before you go in there, because you can get like parts of metal stuck behind your eye, and then the magnets in the MRI will just pull it right out. Yeah. Whoops. All right. So from the modify menu, this is kind of like the inside of our lid. We need to make the outside of our eyelid here. So I'm going to choose to make the outside of my eyelid using the offset command. So in the modify menu, I can choose offset here. And then I'm going to choose as the curve that I want to offset. It's going to be my circle. And let's make our eyelid I'm gonna do a thing. I'm gonna mix my units here. I'm gonna make it 3 millimeters. Yeah, it's roughly 1/8 of an inch, but like later on, I'm gonna use half of this distance to do something, and it's just easier for me to go, oh, half of 3 is 1.5 versus half of 1/8 is 0.0625.
Yes.
It's just, the numbers just look better if we do this. So, and the most important thing about numbers is how good they look.
Right.
It's like it's the key thing about a number. All right, so now I want to draw a line right across the middle of this here. But sometimes it's hard to just draw a line straight across the middle of a circle. Because you don't know where to start the line over here, right? But we can add rules to our line that tell it how to do exactly what we want it to do. So if we want to divide this circle in 2, I can draw a line across the middle of my circle here. And if I do a really bad job of it, look, it's even at an angle, it's nowhere near the middle. But we can add some constraints here to tell that line how to be the perfect line. The most perfect line ever. From our constraints menu, I'm going to pick the coincident constraint first. So if I choose this coincident constraint, I can say, hey, I want this line and the center point of this circle to always be coincident with each other. And that's a good start. But you can see our line is still kind of like at an angle here. It is not straight across. So I'm going to add one more constraint. I'm going to use that horizontal vertical constraint again. So if I choose constraints and then horizontal vertical, and then I pick the line that is almost horizontal, it's so close. Oh, missed. There we go. Then it becomes straight across, and it's dividing our circle right in half. Cool? Cool. All right, then we can say finish sketch. All right, so now we've got another sketch we can name. This is actually the sketch that is going to be our eyelids. Eyelids. It is both of our eyelids, plural. And we can make these eyelids with the revolve tool again. So from our create menu, create, revolve. The profile that I'm going to revolve is going to be this this shape here in front of our eye. See, I can tell this is the front because I've got my little iris here. I guess it really doesn't matter which side it's on, but it's the same side both times. And the axis that we're going to revolve it around, it's going to be that line that we drew that divides our circle in half. Now the default here is the default extent of our revolve is set to full. And we actually don't want to revolve it around fully. We want to revolve this around partially. And I'm going to do a positive 110 degrees. So if I look at this right from the side, you can see it goes a little past 90. Is he dying? All right.
Get more fast drops.
Right. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to say okay. We've got another body we can name here, so where it says body 2, this is going to be our upper lid. And I think, yeah, so 6 of one, half a dozen of another here of our next steps. There's two ways that we could use to create our lower eyelid. Can anybody name what they think those two ways are? I'll give you a hint. One way is the way we did our top eyelid. Right? We could revolve it. The other way is we want to make the exact same shape down below. We could mirror this eyelid to make our lower eyelid. The advantage of that is if we know we want them to be the same all the time, if at some point, like we did when I was initially making this sketch, like I only made this 90 degrees and then realized like, oh, I needed to go a little bit past 90 to make a little connection point. So because I chose to revolve it a second time when I was drawing this initially, I had to fix it on the top and fix it on the bottom. But if we choose, instead of creating that lower eyelid by revolving it again, if I create it with a mirror, so if I say create, and then mirror, and then that's the body that I want to mirror, the upper lid, and my mirroring plane is going to be either this plane here that cuts it in half, or you could choose like edge. Don't die. You could choose that edge, and it'll mirror it. So here with the mirror now, we don't want to join them together. The operation, we don't want to join them. We want to make a new body. So I'm going to choose that new body option and say OK. And now we have another body over here. This is not the upper lid. This is the lower lid. So the advantage there is, at some point, if you change your mind about the angle that this needs to be at, then you only have to change it once, as opposed to having to change it twice. All right, cool. So, we got two lids, we got an eye. In order to make this animatronic thing work, we need to have some pivot points. So let's go ahead and draw those in. We need to have like a point in this center here where the lower lid can rotate and the upper lid can rotate on. So from our create menu, I'm going to create another sketch. So create sketch. I'm going to draw again on the right side, so I'm on the side of my eye here. And I'm going to create that sketch looking right down the side there. And again, my sphere is based on my origin here, and I want my lids to rotate right around that center point. So from our create menu, I'm going to grab the center diameter circle tool. And I'm going to make two center diameter circles. One of them is going to be 3 millimeters because it's my favorite size hardware for making stuff like this. And metric hardware is objectively better. You can say what you want about the metric system or imperial measurements, but metric hardware is just better. Just makes more sense.
Makes no sense how.
How big do you tap? Do you need to drill a hole for a 1/8 inch imperial bolt, right?
Okay.
Like it's probably some weird number.
Well, that would depend on the threads you wanted to put in.
Exactly. So metric is either coarse or fine, and the drill for a 3 millimeter hole is always just a 1/2 millimeter smaller than the size tap you would have put in it. Yeah. And like there's not like 1/4 20 and 1/4 28 and 1/4 32 or whatever they are, it's just like it's fine or coarse, All right, so I'm going to make another circle, and that other circle, I'm going to make it 12 millimeters.
What was the first circle?
3 millimeters. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we actually probably want that middle circle to be 3.25 millimeters. Because it's going to rotate on that, so it's got to have a little bit of slop in there. All right. Cool? Much success? Better premium? All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and say finish sketch. I'm going to name this sketch my lid mount, because it's going to be both of my lid mounts. That seems like as good a name as any. Certainly better than Sketch 3. Excuse me. I'm going to rotate so I can look at this a little bit more sideways here. And I'm going to go ahead and find my extrude tool here. So from the Create menu, I'm going to choose Extrude. And I'm going to extrude out both the small circle and the big circle, because I want to do some cutting away, and then I want to re-add back the things that I need. At least that's the kind of the approach that I took when I was getting prepared here. So if I grab this little arrow and I extend it outwards, I want to cut away that part on my lid there. I actually want to cut it away on both sides. So I'm going to change my direction from one side to symmetric. I can also do something here. So right now the extent type is set to distance. It is probably best practice, if you know you're always going to want to cut through all of it. Whatever all of it is, I want to cut through all of it. It's probably best practice to change your extent type from distance to all. Because at some point, I might go, oh crap, I need an 1.5 inch eyeball. Or I need a 3-inch eyeball. All will always be all versus some arbitrary distance that you extend out to. And then the last thing here is I want to cut away from my lids, but I don't want to cut away from my eye. So in this little objects to cut window, there's two ways I can do this. I can turn off the visibility on my eyeball in my bodies folder. So I could turn this off, and then I'll only be cutting through the things that are visible. You can also, there's a little objects to cut drop down window here, and I can just uncheck eye, my eyeball body. If I uncheck it, it won't cut from that body. It'll only cut from the bodies that have the little check mark on. And then I'm going to say oakley dokley. All right, now we can strategically add back what we need to add back here. So from our Create menu, I'm going to go ahead and grab the Extrude tool again. I'm going to choose that outer circle part. I'm going to start my extrusion. I want my extrusion to kind of start out here at the edge. So from my start, I'm not going to start from the profile plane. I'm going to start from an object. And here, I'm going to turn off some things. So I'm going to start by adding the pivot points to my upper lid. So I'm going to turn off my lower lid. I guess I don't really need to do that. I can join it later, but this is the way I'm choosing to do it. So I'm going to turn off the visibility on my lower lid because I just want to add these joints to my upper lid right now. As the object that I'm starting from, I'm going to pick this inner point of this circle here. So if I choose that point right there, and then the distance that I'm going to choose is half of my thickness of my lid. So I made a 3mm eyelid, so I'm going to make a 1.5mm little circle lid there. And I can kind of look at the side and go, oh yeah, that's not hitting anything, that's not obstructing anything there. That's a good spot for that little lid.
I lost something there, Carl.
Oh yeah? Where are you at?
So,
Yeah, so we're starting, instead of starting from the profile plane, we're starting from an object.
right, that's what it is.
And then the object,
That point, that's all that point.
yeah, the object is gonna be this point down here. So we're gonna start from that point.
Okay, the lower point there.
Yeah. And we're starting from that point because if we were to start from this point is actually slightly further in, closer to our lid, and then we'll kind of
Yeah,
get
yeah.
closer to the side of our point. So this point here is the furthest out.
So, my profile that I'm using is that the outer donut to that circle there.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's this profile, we start from there, distance 1.5 millimeters.
Yeah, we could take a small pause here. We're doing good on time, guys, so no stress.
Yeah, I gotta fix something because sketch here.
How are you doing, Mike?
Trying to see why I can't get the other one. You have to mirror it separately, because it doesn't, direction, it gives you one side or two side, it doesn't give you symmetric.
Yeah, so I mirrored it separately. I mirrored it
Okay.
in a separate command.
All right.
I was trying to extrude this up.
So basically, yeah,
Go to the sketch,
Yeah.
add the sketch.
and create mirror.
It looks like is this your shape there? You don't want it to go out.
It is going out.
Isn't it like on the inside of your
Body bag.
It's in the gap. You want it to go the other way. Yeah, push your hands in there.
So this, we want to extrude this guy. So we're gonna do our extrude profile.
You said to object start.
Yeah,
Oh,
start.
maybe, okay, hang on.
Yeah, and the object is gonna be that point
This
there.
donut, that donut. we're gonna
This
extrude
point
that
here?
right there.
Inside.
No.
There you go, hang on. Let me-
Start is gonna be on the arrow for that.
This point right here.
Yeah, you might have to turn on your switch.
Now that, so you're gonna have to do it down on here, this point.
Yeah, there you go. There we go. Nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah.
Object, that's your point right there.
Yeah, and then,
Distance, there you go. Now it's got the-
yeah, 1.5 millimeters. Yeah, I did join.
Oh, you did join.
We might have to go back and change this, but I'm starting with join.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and say okay.
What is your default for that?
Well, if I want it to be joined, like I definitely want these to be together. So I default to join. However,
So, that's because you drew this before, you know what you're doing. But like, if you're just drawing something, what's your default? New
Well-
join or new body?
my default is join, but when I drew this the first time, I had to go back and change it. That being said, because the next step here is we're going to choose to make a mirror. because I want this shape also over on this side. And we've joined these things together already. So I can't make a mirror of a body. I have to make a mirror of a feature. And this is hit and miss. So features are the things that are down here in your timeline, down at the bottom. So in theory, anything that, not anything, I don't think you can make mirror a sketch, make a feature mirror of a sketch, but a lot of the things that happen down here in your timeline, you can mirror them, but it doesn't always work. Mirroring features can fail.
Yeah. Weird things happen.
Yeah, and so like I'll try this, and it might work, it might not. I'm going to mirror this feature. My mirror plane is in the middle, and the feature that I chose is right down here, is the very last extrusion that I picked. So I tend to pick these things in the feature timeline. I think you can also pick them out here in your drawing view, but like I'm just more sure of exactly what I'm clicking on, exactly the feature I'm clicking on if I choose it in my feature timeline. You know, this might be picking some other feature, who knows. So I tend to pick it down here in my feature timeline. And then if I say okay, so it did not work. It made a mirror. It just put it in definitely the wrong place. I don't know.
Yeah, ours worked.
Oh, yours worked. So sometimes when it fails, like here, it's showing me that it's going to put it over here, right?
Oh, object type.
Carl,
Yeah.
I selected body,
Yeah.
and I just clicked on the upper eyelid body and clicked on the same plane.
Oh.
And then it just kind of mirrored itself and joined itself together.
Does that
and
work?
it did the happy mutant thing.
Huh. It used to be that when you were mirroring something, that it didn't like to live on.
Body, you want to join it.
It didn't like it when the body lived on both sides of the mirror plane. Look at that. Cool.
Now turn off your eyeball, and it
Yeah.
should be there.
It is. It is indeed there. Look at that. You learn new things all the time. So, you know, that's what I was kind of saying when you were saying, hey, what do you default to, right? So if this had failed and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to have to mirror a body, I would have went back to that extrusion that I made that thing on, and instead of join, I just said, all right, I'm going to make that a new body. And then I'll have a body that I can mirror, mirror this little thing right over here, and then I would have just joined them together afterwards. So it's another step, but whatever it takes for the compute to work out, I guess. All right, so let's make the other part of our lid here. So from I'm going to turn off my lower. I'm not going to turn it off. I'm going to turn on my upper, though. I'm sorry, I'm going to turn on my lower. So both my lids are on. And now, from the Create menu, I can grab the Extrude tool one more time. I'm going to choose that donut shape. I'm going to again choose to extrude it from an object and not from the start plane or from the profile plane. The nice thing here is when you extrude from an object, so the object that I'm going to extrude from is this flat face here. I don't want to extrude exactly on that face because these things have to rotate on each other. So we can still, even though we're extruding from an object, we can still add an offset here. which is really nice. So from that profile plane, I'm going to start offset an additional 0.25 millimeters. Just a little clearance for clearance there. And then the distance that I'm going to extrude is 1.5 millimeters. Now, this donut shape is touching our upper eyelid and our lower eyelid. It is touching both of those bodies. So we want to turn off our upper eyelid right now. We needed to have it on so we could choose that face initially. But now we want to turn it off. So when we join this together, it's not going to join the upper and lower eyelid together. Does that make sense? We want to keep our upper and lower eyelids separate. And now we can do exactly the same procedure that we did for our lower eyelid, our upper eyelid. Is from the, go ahead. Yeah, 1/4 of a millimeter, which is a round number if you're mixing imperial and metric measurements. All right. So now we can grab that mirror tool one more time.
How much is our distance?
1.5 millimeters. 1.21 gigawatts. So now we can grab that mirror tool one more time here. I can try to mirror a feature again. We'll see if it works this time. But you know you can mirror a body as well. Yeah, nope, did not work. Yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. And join, and okay.
Which one did you use? That one?
Yeah, so then I did that same operation we did to create our other ring on the other side. I just used that mirror option, or the mirror command. So create and then mirror. And then I'm gonna say okay.
Did you turn your upper eyelid off?
I did, yeah. I turned off my upper eyelid when I did that join, so you don't join them together. Cool.
I just can't get that one to the
Yeah. So then you're mirroring. So if you pick the body that you're going to mirror, which you've already picked, and then the plane that you're going to pick, if you hit the select button there, is going to be that. There you go, that one. Nice.
and then okay.
Yeah, and then okay. And now you can turn your body back on if you want to. Very nice, much success. The point of drawing this here was so we could bring them over to another program. Do we want to add our tabs or do we want to add our joints? What do you think? Joints or pull tabs? Like, we've only got a couple minutes left, so we can We can add our little mounting points that we're going to actually pull on our lids with our little servo motors. Or we can add joints and make this thing move. What do you think?
Joints.
Joints. Joints it is. All right, cool. So, we've got one component here right now. We've got one component. Our component is called unsaved. And our component has 3 bodies in it and 3 sketches. In order to make a joint, you may recall that we need to have more than one component. But thankfully, there is the ability to make a new component from bodies that you already have. So from our create menu, we're going to make a new component. We're actually going to make 3 new components, all at the same time here. We're going to make these new components from bodies. So if we click on this little from bodies checkbox here, instead of naming the component, we're going to click on the from bodies checkbox. And now we've got our select button active. We're going to select the 3 bodies that we've got over in our left side here in our browser. Those are the 3 bodies that we're going to make components from. And I'm going to go ahead and say OK. All right, so now we've got all these bodies here. I'm sorry, all these components over here on the side. Now we can start assembling as-built joints. So an as-built joint is a joint that's like already in place where you don't need to move it around before you can tell it how to move. So it's an as-built joint. And a joint happens between 2 components. Right now, my joint type says it's going to be a rigid joint. And we don't want to make a rigid joint. We want to make a revolute joint. So from the type menu here, I'm going to change the joint type to revolute. The order in which you pick these kind of matters. So I'm going to pick the top eyelid first, and I'm going to pick the eyeball second. Typically, the thing that you click on first is the thing that you want to do the moving. So we don't want our eyeball to move around, we want our lid to move around. And then now we've got a little option here that says, hey, you want to pick a snapping point? That snapping point is the axis that you're going to rotate around. So I can pick on any circle that is rotating around that axis. So that little 3mm circle or this larger circle, either one will be phenomenally adequate there. I can also here set joint minimums and maximums. So if I click that little checkbox, like I can say, hey, you won't be able to open past a certain point. And when it closes, it won't be able to close past a certain point.
It doesn't have a certain point.
drag on this little blue arrow there. You can drag up on that. There you go, and that kind of sets that minimum, sets that maximum. There you go. And now, we can do that one more time. Good, how are you, Jeff?
Good, good.
So from the assemble menu, I'm going to choose the as-built joint there. This time I'm going to choose my lower eyelid here, and then my eyeball second. And I'm going to scroll over to the other side. So I don't want to put my control flags right on top of each other because I won't be able to click on them individually. So I'm actually going to rotate around to the other side of my little eyeball here. And then I'll set minimums and maximums, just like I did on the other side there. And I'm going to say OK. Oh. Yeah. There you go. Now you can click your snapping point, you know, which is like your center, your, there you go, that works. There we go. And then you can, exactly.
Oh wait, this is going to be negative for...
Yeah, you really need to edit that one more time. Yeah, and then you're good, right? How come you get clicked OK? Oh, there you go. Alright, cool.
I just have to click it.
Yeah, then you could say OK if you want there. Now the last thing I'm going to do is like an eyeball doesn't really work like this where only one side opens at a time. The eyes really open, the lids kind of open at the same time, right? Isn't that how? Maybe the top eyelid opens more, but you can, in the assemble menu, create a link between joints. So motion link is a link between, I think, just two joints. I don't know if you can make a motion link between more than two joints. But if I choose this motion link option, and I'm going to pick the joint, you can pick the joints here in your drawing view, so I can click on the little flags to pick them, or I can pick them in my joints folder in my browser over here. So I'm going to pick both of my joints there, and I bet it's not playing because I have to say reverse. There we go. I had to click the reverse button in order for it to play it all because they were at their limit. They were trying to close into each other further, and they weren't allowed to because there were limits that were doing that. So now my eye's blinking. Neat.
Sophia's rolling her eyes.
Yeah,
Oh, good. All right, all right.
mine's rolling.
I get that a lot.
I'm really mad.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of gets to me when I'm with my sister.
Success? We're blinking? Mike, are you blinking?
Yep.
Nice.
I'm rolling.
All right, cool. That's it.
What was motion link?
Motion link, yeah.
Did you do all this tonight?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, so I found on YouTube, I found this whole, there's a lot of YouTube videos dedicated to animatronics. And I went down that rabbit hole and had a lot of fun this weekend. So, and here I found this. So now if you wanted to, you could, I'm going to say okay. In order to get this into the animatronic control software that I found. You have to export it. If you click export, it's got to be an OBJ file. You can have all the bodies all together here, and if you export it as an OBJ file, then you can import them into this piece of software called Botango. Botango, all one word, and then you can animate it. It's pretty cool. Neat.
All free software.
All free software. Yep.
So,
Yeah. I had to set up a couple of other joints here, but there are tutorials on the internet that walk me through it. It's pretty great.
So those dots, if you move those dots, it changes the.
Yeah, so these are the keyframes here. So, like here, if I go to at 3 seconds in, you can see as I move this up or down, the lid is moving.
Neat, yeah.
So you can make the upper eyelid open more than the lower eyelid, like we were talking about.
Yeah, or make them open at a different rate. Or like you could take these,
What's his name?
extend them out and change like the curve of how it opens.
Oh man.
Or, you know, like
Just kind of in
do
passing,
that to it.
kinda say hello to him.
You make it
Don't
open.
know him well, but it
Can you
looks like
animate
he's been
that
there
so we can see
forever.
how that looks?
Vikram, yeah.
So it kind
No?
of starts slow and then finishes fast, which is pretty cool.
Weird for an eyeball, but
I thought I heard he was here
Mhm.
many years ago. I think so.
Yeah.
What is that called?
But
Botango?
anyways,
Botango,
I
yeah.
did his invoice.
It
so
is.
both of the locker that he says. that he's
Botango.com.
looking at and his new shelter both billed.
It's pretty cool. This is obviously a more complicated rig than what we made. But it's amazing that the stuff like this is free. Yeah. Thanks to the developer.
I mean,
You know what? Support the developer by buying one of these things if you really want to. Buy one of their pieces of hardware to use the software on. Like, how cool is that pirate?
I didn't say it. but-
Wouldn't that you be the hit of Halloween if you had that sitting above your candy jar?
This one.
Yeah. Captain.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I
Captain's
don't
kind of
know
expensive.
where he's coming up with some of those
But,
numbers. I
you know.
never mentioned that. Wow. He just saw
Captain
it,
ain't cheap.
move in there or something. No. You gotta check.
Pretty cool though.
Check with somebody and
All right.
ask first.
That is it for today. We will see you next week.
It keeps